We're back in Star Traders Frontiers. Today we're going to be doing 3 of the hard difficulty unlocks in a single run. We're going to do Salvage, Contractor, Antique Collector, Specialty Acquisitions. These all involve the Salvage minigame. The captain that we're going to use for this is an explorer, although any captain job will do. The most important thing in our captain setup is that we choose priority A for our contacts, because we're going to need the X-Spy, the Court Scientist, and the Blackheart in our starting quadrant for recruits. We're also going to need Salvage Broker and Retired Explorer for Salvage Rumors. We need contacts at A for influence primarily. Priority B, I recommend skills. We want to max out our repair pool. That gives us a bonus in the Salvage minigame. Priority C, we have attributes. Doesn't really matter that much, but wisdom again provides an edge in the Salvage minigame. If you're doing this run to continue on after completing the unlocks, then you can feel free to change the skills, attributes, and even the captain's experience. Priority D and E, I have experience in ship. I bump experience up to D just to get our starting officers leveled up a little bit faster, which can be helpful in terms of speed. And the best ship for this run, frankly, is the Juror, so we can put ship all the way down in E. We're going to start the game as Rychart. I like Rychart for pretty much every sprint unlock when we're using the default map, because it only has 4 zones, and most of the Rychart zones are clustered pretty close together, which cuts down on our travel time and keeps our contacts nice and concentrated. We're going to play on Impossible, because that's how I roll. And we do want to manually assign talents, because we really want to focus on skill saves here. So, as soon as we're in the game, we're going to start assigning those talents. Pretty much everyone gets a skill save. If you've taken the Explorer Captain, then I recommend taking Far Voyager as your skill, because the Explorer skill save doesn't really help that much. I give Port Maintenance on my starting Engineer Officer, because it saves a little bit of time on repairs, although we're going to dismiss the Engineer very early. In fact, we're going to end up doing pretty much a full crew recomp, but the skill saves and other talents will still come in handy for us in the early game. That's why we're taking the skill ops save on our crew dogs, hotwire on our E-techs. We're going to take the tactics save on our gunners. We're going to take read charts on our navigators, the repair skill save on our mechanic, and on the pilots, having a couple with sure landfall will again save us a little bit of time. We honestly don't need to train any skills on our combat crew, because we're not keeping them long and nothing they have is useful. So we're just going to fly straight over to pick up the Arbiter. We need to talk to her to get the introduction to Kradgnikcuf. While we're here, now that there's something other than the void outside our airlock, we're going to dismiss our entire starting combat crew, because they're just taking up space. That's why we didn't give them any talents. We're also going to open up the refuel menu and set auto refuel, so we don't forget that later and run out of fuel in the middle of the vastness of space. Once we've done that, we're going to fly straight over to Kradgnikcuf's court. We're going to have to talk to Zeta just to get through her story and get the actual introduction. We do need Fane for this run, because specifically we're going to want the introduction to Servento later, which is a couple of missions into the Kradgnikcuf story chain. We're going to immediately buy a level of rank, just to increase the value of our missions later. We're going to recruit 3 mechanics and 2 pilots. The mechanics we're going to teach the repair skill save to, and the pilots are just so that we can have 2 more sure landfalls while we're running our Proving Your Charter missions. We're feeling really optimizy here, so we're going to dismiss our pilot that has sure landfall on cooldown and recruit a new one with a fresh sure landfall, because hey, why not, right? And finally, everything's looking pretty good. No empty beds, okay. Then it's on to the Proving Your Charter missions. These missions are only offered until the year 21020. They're really fast, they're really easy, no skill saves, no combat, no anything. So we're going to take as many as we can. One from Kradgnikcuf, then immediately go over and start taking them from all of our other contacts, just stacking up as many as we can before that 210.20 cutoff. When we're turning these in, we often have the option of doing it with a fast option, which is something like over the spice plate, or a high rep option, which is something like public spectacle. We're always going to choose the over the spice plate option, just to help us burn through more and more and more of them. These missions always go to friendly systems, which means with Reichart, it's going to keep us in that very small loop of Reichart zones that are within this starting quadrant. We're going to preferentially choose the one-way shipper and return shipper, because you can stack an unlimited number of them in any size cargo hold. We can also take the escort and the short jumper missions if we need to. The problem with them is that you only have one passenger cabin to start, so you may end up needing to buy a second passenger cabin. And then, yep, it's just a matter of burning through these over and over and over again. As soon as the year gets to 210.20, people will stop offering new Proving Your Charter missions. But at that point, we can still take the missions that are in their already offered mission panel. So we're going to take those as well. While we're doing this, we're going to be checking our contacts to see what their current recruit level is, because there's a bunch of officers and crew that we want to recruit. Credits are going to be at a bit of a premium here, and most of these crew we only need to have at a certain level. So if we can find our contact recruiting at exactly that level, we can save ourselves a little bit of money. Once they're recruiting at level 16, you can't choose to pay less and recruit at level 12. You have to catch them at just the right moment. Look at that nice stack of missions. Yeah, we're going to need to install another passenger cabin in order to run both of those short jumper missions. That's fine. It only takes 3 days to install a passenger cabin, so it doesn't really slow us down noticeably. When we run into ships in deep space, we never want to enter ship combat. I think that's probably obvious. Usually what we want to do is submit to looting or submit to inspection from Reichart ships, and then retreat if we can't. Against ships of other factions, we may want to retreat rather than submit to being reported. Retreat can actually have a smaller rep loss, and the main thing we're concerned about is building up our Reichart rep, but not letting our rep with any other faction drop below about -10 minimum, because we don't know whose space we're going to be salvaging in later. And the lower our rep, the more hostile the ships are going to be that we encounter while we're doing that. Now we've hit 210.20 here, so we're not going to be able to take any new Proving Your Charter missions, like I said. But we can still keep running the ones we have, and we can still keep accepting ones that are already offered. So there's no reason not to take those last couple of missions. See, now we can see he offered Spy Search and Return. That's not a Proving Your Charter mission, even though Kradgnikcuf still shows as Proving Your Charter. So we're going to go to other contacts. We're going to see what missions they still have available, and we're also going to double check their recruit standings. We can start turning things in now with the plus rep option to get that final little boost, because time is no longer a premium. For these unlocks, we've got 10 and 15 years for all of them. So really, we're feeling time pressure now because of Proving Your Charter, but we won't feel time pressure later if we do things reasonably. We've got a good recruit level here from our Blackheart, so we're going to take a level 12 officer. He's going to be our reputation officer. or she, is going to be a reputation officer to prevent us from taking rep loss when we're over in Kadar space. We're also going to dismiss our gunners now because our Blackheart is recruiting at level 10, which is the optimal level to recruit the pirates we're going to need for the nose for loot talent. So by dismissing some gunners now, we can recruit level 10 pirates relatively affordably and fill out our crew. So at 8,000 credits apiece, we're saving ourselves about 12,000 credits per recruit versus what it would be if we recruit them later. Now we also want 2 level 14 spies at this point, so we're going to have to find someone else to dismiss. Pilots shouldn't be a problem. Now that we've got the pirates in our crew, we're actually overflowing with pilot skill. So we're going to want the pilot skill saves later. We're going to put them on officers, actually. But for now, especially our sure landfall pilots, we can freely dismiss. Recruiting these spies as early as possible gets us access to Secrets Unbound, which is a talent that lets us passively generate intel. And that's going to be so valuable for pumping up the rep and influence of other contacts later on. We're going to keep accepting the last few Proving Your Charter missions. Yeah, including from the Blackheart. Let's see, you got any? No, none of those look good to me. We only want ones that are in the same quadrant, obviously. Now our officer, our reputation officer, is going to take 5 levels of Bounty Hunter. You may have noticed that I bought 1 level of Edict. That's so that the Bounty Hunter's red badge talent is able to function. We're going to fiddle with the levels here and just try and max out our Intimidate as much as possible. That's the only really relevant skill on this particular officer. This is a temporary role for this officer. We're taking a Negotiate skill save. Winning Compromise is fine. Red badge is the real money here. That's going to save us a lot of rep in the next couple of missions we run in Kadar space. Again, this is all still part of the setup. And then the pirates are going to know Nose for Loot is the most important skill. Blackheart Fraud and Icy Stare are both good. You can take a mix of both eventually when you fill out your pirates. For now, yeah, I'll take 2 Blackheart Frauds, 1 Icy Stare, 2 Icy Stare. That's good. And then on the spies, the primary skill we're worried about is Secrets Unbound. And then Data Haul is good, and Scouring Search. Those are really the key spy talents. When this spy levels up more, we'll probably teach them Deft Control, the electronic skill save, also quite good. But Secrets Unbound is the real money. Secrets Unbound means that every time we land on a zone, we can potentially be getting some free intel. And like I said, later on with these contacts, our starting contacts, and also their salvage broker contact, and especially with Servento for the navigators, that intel is going to be super valuable. We're really aiming to get our rep up to plus 150, particularly when it comes to going to meet Servento. We want to get her recruiting her navigators at as high a level as possible, so we can just like sell her 1 or 2 rep and be done with it. Okay, I think this is the last one. That is our charter fully proven. So now it's back to Callaghan Fane. We're going to pick up the plot mission here, Arbiter Neutrality. Yeah, let's level everyone up first. I like to give all of my officers a pilot skill level in this run because we're dismissing all of our pilots, and we're really going to need those skill saves. And speaking of skill saves, Quartermaster is an incredible value for level 1 skill saves. So because this is, in this run I'm doing here, I'm just blitzing through the unlocks. My captain is very much built for the unlocks. But if you can use any captain, and then obviously don't give your captain a pilot. We'll put it on the other officers, and that's fine. Double check we've got the edict, and now we're going to take arbiter neutrality. This is essential in order to get us the introduction to Servento a little bit further in the chain. You'll notice that my starting quartermaster, who we're going to dismiss soon, leveled up to 5, and I gave him reliable hand. That's to get that good 17% bonus on arbiter neutrality. That's an extra few thousand credits, which might make the difference when it comes to all the recruiting and upgrading we're going to do later. Arbiter neutrality is pretty straightforward. We just fly next door. We go over to Eitan Char's system. We're trying to avoid losing rep with Kadar here. That's why we trained up the bounty hunter diplomat officer. So in this first step of the mission, we're going to go with the light escort, because that is going to annoy Char the least. And you can see here, we only lost 2 rep with Kadar. So that's pretty good. The next step, we have 2 options. We can spy in orbit, or there's also an option to turn it in with a negotiate save or command save, I think, on the ground. Because we have spies and we have scouring search, we're going to see if the spy option looks okay. This seems pretty safe. We can use our scouring search. Perfect, get some intel. The minus rep's bad, but we have another scouring search. This hand looks fine. And then if we see anything bad here, we'll just abandon and turn it on the ground. But there we go. After four attempts, we get the mission success. We get a little payout bonus. And lost 4 rep. So that has us in pretty good standings with Kadar still. We'll stop in and pay our crew, maybe. Oh yeah, we should check for healing. We don't want anyone that's important to us dying here. The only person who's an actual risk, though, is our crew dog. And that's honestly not that big of a deal. We're going to dismiss 1 crew dog later. And if that guy drops dead, well, he was the one who was left behind, right? So now we're heading back to our home quadrant, where we're going to turn in arbiter neutrality and pretty much immediately, I think, take the next step of the mission and go meet Servento. We're still doing pretty good for time here. It's still year 210, which means that we've used less than a year from our from the start of the game. We're going to stop in here just to refuel. You don't want to run out of fuel at any point in this run, obviously. And then later on, once we have skip off the void, we're going to try and be even more careful to not get below the hyperjump tick mark that you see there at about the 8 AU range. Alright, Estelle is out of our hair. Let's see who's leveled up. On our quartermaster, if you've taken the quartermaster job on your captain, I actually really like contact bargain. That can prevent a critical crew member from leaving later if you accidentally have screwed up your morale in some way or another. The doctor we're going to dismiss pretty soon. The quartermaster we're going to dismiss pretty soon. Doesn't really matter what we choose on them. The crew dogs, when they level up, we're going to want scrap procedures. The credits, like I said, are going to be a challenge throughout the run. On our E-Techs, there's lots of good skills to choose from. I like Signature Jammer. It just saves our skip off the voids by letting us retreat from people we might not otherwise be able to retreat from. On the mechanic, I took repurposed parts, which is a salvage talent, and we're keeping our mechanics for the ship ops, and the fact that they get a salvage card replace talent is just icing on the cake. That's why we're taking them over crew dogs. Our pirates now are leveling up, so the ones that had Black Art Fraud will give Icy Stare and vice versa. And I think we're ready to chit-chat with Eric now. We're going to have to talk to him twice in order to actually get the mission that we want. So we're just going to click through the dialogue, Tell us what you're planning. Yeah, Servento's son was killed. Let's go see if we can, you know, make her mad enough to be on our side. Let's do it. Depending on your role, sometimes this mission can even be in your home system, but a couple of jumps here isn't really going to slow us down in a significant way. We're taking this mission specifically to get the introduction to Servento. She's always introduced with this mission, always exactly the same. She always offers navigator recruits. In order for our plans to work later on in this run, we really need to skip off the void, and it'll take forever for our starting navigators to get there. They probably will never get there before we... Oh, look at this. There's a salvage site right there. Okay, we're not ready for it. We've taken a peek. We're going to come back to that later. That's going to save us a minute or two, but it doesn't really change the preparation for the run on the whole. Still, we can't deny that's very cool to see. It's definitely a good omen for this run. Like I said, we're turning into Delayed Settlement. She has a thirst for blood, so we're going to tempt her with vengeance. And then we want to dismiss our starting 3 navigators and recruit level 14 at least navigators from Servento. And you can see we've already got intel. We got 1 from our spying during the mission turn-in, and the other 3 were all from Secrets Unbound, so it's already doing work for us. Sell her 2 bundles of intel, and she's ready to recruit us navigators. Our starting navigators would eventually learn Skip from the Void, but probably not before we'll finish this run if we're doing it effectively, honestly. The other way to skip from the Void without Servento is to make a navigator officer, but we need our officers. So 2 level 16 navigators will more than fill out our navigation pool. We're going to need to sell 1 more piece of intel here in order just to top her up. So the second one can be 14 as well. Two navigators more than fill out our navigation pool. Will pretty much fill out our pilot pool. Will give us some bonus command as well. Now the vital skills here are Skip Off the Void and Read Charts. There's some other good options for the secondary skills. A command skill save or a tactics skill save. Efficient route is good too. Okay, we now have 1 free crew slot, and pretty much all that's left to do is recruit a small army. We're going to level up these last couple of regular crew on the same principles as we did in the previous round. Yeah, repurpose parts. That's everyone. Now at this point we're going to, I would normally say, let's do a double check here and make sure that our credits are looking okay and our faction reps looking okay. If you're low on rep or credits, you can also even carry on a few more plot missions past this point, but you want to do so very carefully. Getting into ship combat or crew combat is really going to force you to restart at this stage, because you don't have anybody good that you can put into crew combat, and you are not equipped to run ship combat on Impossible in the Juror without any combat upgrades. So like I said, if you need to do some more missions, make sure that you know which ones are safe to do. Delayed Settlement is safe. You can do 1 more mission with Eric, the More Than Meets the Eye mission, which will have you taking Torka and K-Wall on an assassination mission. You can do that without combat. You'll need a second passenger cabin. And then Callaghan Fane offers some diplomatic missions that, again, as long as you know which ones are safe to do, you can do those. But really, as long as your credits are at around 150k here, and your rep is around plus 150 as well, then you're in pretty good shape. We need to have a bit more credits if we hadn't already recruited our pirates, but because we've recruited our pirates, we're in a good place. Now it's time to dismiss basically everyone. We want to dismiss 2 E-Techs, we want to dismiss 1 crew dog, We're going to dismiss all of our officers. We're going to dismiss all of our pilots. And yeah, that's it. Now, we're going to be filling these empty beds with some more pirates, some scientists for the laboratory triage life save, and some officers. They're going to do double duty as more pirates and as scientists, and also actually triple duty because they're going to be pilots with the pilot skill save as well. And then the last officer that we need is arguably the most important. We need one level 15 scavenger. So for him, we can recruit a level 16 officer of literally any job, and then just give him 15 levels of scavenger. For the other two officers, having a scientist or a pirate is fine, as long as they are level 16 again, because we need to get, no, a level 14 would do, because we need 8 levels of pirate, 5 levels of scientist, and 1 level of pilot. Okay, so let's just fill out that crew shopping list right now. In total, 6 pirates, level 10 or higher, 2 scientists, level 14 or higher, 3 new officers. 1 is a pirate or a scientist. 2 of them are pirates or scientists, at least level 14, and the third is level 16 anything. And then we're also recruiting 4 swordsmen to be our combat crew. Okay, so for our scavenger officer, like I said, 15 levels in scavenger. For our other 2 officers, we need 8 levels in pirate. That's to get access to nose for loot. And we need 5 levels in scientist. That's to get access to the salvage talents. And 1 level in pilot for the pilot skill save, because we've dismissed all of our pilots. And while our pirates have pilot skill, the pirates do not get a pilot skill save, and we're going to need some of those. The other scientist pirate officer, exactly the same build. Perfect. Now let's do the talents. On the scavenger, the most important talent is Master Reclamation. This is our redraw when we get a salvage hand that we just can't deal with. We're going to take Picky Looters and Careful EVA, his 2 other good salvage talents, and then a bunch of skill saves. Yeah, there's some other other scavenger talents that are all right, but really skill saves are going to be more useful to us than any of those. On the other officers, Nose for Loot, and Expert Maneuver, and Accurate Predictions, and Trace Analysis. Those are our 4 vital talents, and then you can shop around. Again, mostly skill saves. Sure, Landfall, why not? Let's have 1. Nose for Loot, Expert Maneuver, Accurate Predictions, Trace Analysis, Doctor Skill Save, and yeah, having 1 Radiation Storm talent isn't a terrible idea. Pirates, same as before. Really our goal here is to get at least 8 Nose for Loots. You can optimize this and even find room for 9 or 10 pirates on your crew and get 9 or 10 Nose for Loots, all the better. The hardest thing in this whole run is going to be getting the rare trade goods from the salvage. On our scientists, the reason that we have 2 scientists is for 2 life save talents. Laboratory triage is essential. And then after that, it's basically the same good salvaging and skill save talents as we have on our scientist officers. Again, you can go 1 more scientist and crew, get another laboratory triage if you have room, but usually another pirate would just be better. Nose for loot, more important than life. The 4 swordsmen, That's our combat crew. You don't even need to train them. We just need to be able to fill out that crew when the time comes. I choose swordsmen rather than soldiers entirely because that puts them alphabetically at the bottom of the crew list, so they're easy to find. And now we're good to go. We don't need anything else from Callaghan Fane. We don't need to run another mission for this whole run. Look at what we've got going on with our ship. We're going to want to buy Salvage EVA decks. And we get a discount if we do it at our Salvage broker contact, but it's so cheap and we're doing fine for money, so I guess we're just going to do it here. And then the other upgrade that we like, certainly not essential, is Reactor Spike Module. The Salvage Bay reduces crew damage during salvaging and critically reduces salvage time. Reactor Spike Module gives us extra fuel and reduces the fuel for hyperspace jumps. The biggest problem with the Juror is really its fuel tank and how expensive its jumps are. So if you can afford a couple of Reactor Spike Modules, that makes a big difference. We don't need to go to our salvage broker in this run. We've got a rumor right here. Normally we would go to our salvage broker and we would be buying a rumor and doing our upgrades there. Having the salvage already have popped is saving us a couple of minutes. Really, that's it. Because salvage broker, 2 jumps, buy rumor, boom, same deal. Now we're into the actual meat of the run. We're going to use our nose for loot to get a rare trade goods card on these hands, basically whenever we can, because as I was saying before, drawing enough rare trade goods is going to be the bottleneck for how fast we can complete this. If there's a hand that already has a rare trade good card in it, or a relic card in it, then we're going to instead choose a remove talent, because that's going to up the probability of drawing that good card from 20% to 25%. And then if there's 2 cards that we can't handle, we're going to use Master Reclamation to get an entirely new hand. From here on out, it really is just clicking the salvage button, keeping everyone alive, almost everyone alive, and keeping the ship from falling apart. It can't really be any simpler than that. The trickiest thing here, and this is really gone into detail in the PDF version of the guide, is knowing which cards to replace and which cards you can't deal with. So let's just, right here you see a 2 crew combat. That is the example, a prime example of a card that we can't deal with. Anything that's 2 times crew combat with humans or with Xenos, big problem for us. Any card that says contact killed, that's the assassin's card, big problem for us. Any card that says death among crew with no life-saving talent possible, that's specifically the unavoidable fatality card, big problem. And the other big problem is the devious spies card with the devious spies with the 20 to 40 reputation lost. We can't afford to be low rep with the loon while we're salvaging in the loon space. If we happen to have really high rep with the loon already, whether through cards or something else, then we don't have to worry as much about the minus rep card, but the contact killed card is still a big problem for us. So again, the major problems are the assassins, the devious spies, the running battle, the Xeno assault, and the unavoidable fatality. Those 5 cards always must be replaced or removed. If there are 2 or more of those cards in a single hand, you are going to use Master Reclamation every single time to get a new hand. If Master Reclamation is on cooldown, you just dock up and pay the premium to retrain your scavenger, all of his talents. That'll let you get Master Reclamation back off cooldown, and will also refresh your other talents, which can be useful. If there aren't one of those 5 major problems, then prioritizing things to remove becomes a little bit more fluid. I would say the next worst card is 30 plus fuels and turns. It just burns so much of our time, but that's honestly not so bad in this run that I would consider using a Master Reclamation because of it specifically. Now here, actually it's time to stop and talk about this. We're not worrying about cards that force us into 1 crew combat versus 2 because we have 4 swordsmen that we can send in. And then if we just immediately surrender, usually at least a couple of them will survive and we can just hire some new ones. Don't tell them what happened to the old guys. As long as we have 4 swordsmen, they don't need to ever win a combat. 4 swordsmen into combat, let them die, recruit new ones. You can let them sit at low health and morale, because worst thing that happens is a swordsman dies or abandons ship, and getting more is free. Sorry, I was saying minor problems. We're removing the 30 plus fuel in turns whenever we can. We're also going to remove, whenever we can, anything else that delays us. That's Advanced Orbital Rumor, burn extra fuel in time, 10 plus fuel in turns. And then we also want to remove the near-death double fatality card whenever we can, because that is going to use up 2 of our life saves. We won't actually lose a crew, but then we're going to be sitting with scientists, both of them having laboratory triage and cooldown. We might have to retrain them. It'll also set 2 crew to low health, which might cost us time at the doctors. The other thing we really don't like is the -5 ship component damage card. That's Radiation Storm, because we've got the Salvage EVA decks providing us some resilience against crew damage, but nothing providing us resilience against ship damage, and time in repairing in the shipyard can again add up real quick. The rest of the cards are at worst annoyances. The lower level component damage, the higher level crew damage, the single fatality with a death save available, the Xeno Hive ship we won't be able to retreat from. So when we encounter a Xeno ship, it's a guaranteed skip off the void. That is going to be the end of our run if we don't have skip off the void available. So always make sure your skip off the void is off cooldown. Always make sure you have enough fuel before drawing into a hand with that card in it. But as long as you've got the fuel and the skip ready, Xeno ship combat is just burn a skip, carry on with your day. And then I guess of the single crew combats, there is the Infected Scavengers card, which is a bit annoying because it can give our crew bad traits, which can, I suppose, cause us a problem. But since we're not planning to carry this run on after we complete the unlocks, having some bad traits spread around is usually not going to be that big of a deal. So that's basically the cards we're looking to get rid of. The cards we're looking to find, you've already seen a bunch of them. The Rare Trade Goods card, if it shows up on its own, fantastic. Usually we're only going to see that through using Nose for Loot. The other good cards are Cloxian Medical Bay, if you happen to be at an abandoned medical station, and that because it also counts as a rare trade good. And then any card that gives you armor, gear, or weapons counts as a relic. Not just the ones that say ancient gear or relic armor. Any weapon, any gear, any armor. You'll see here in the run, I've run low on money. So that's fine. It happens. You should get so many rare trade goods from even your first 10 or 15 salvage operations that you can just go pick them up and dump them at any indie planet. If you've got a black market, all the better. But honestly, dump them at an indie planet, even for even with the buy value rating being at F. Like even if you're getting completely ripped off, you're going to get 10 or 20,000 per stack of rare trade goods, and all you need is the money. Obviously, again, if you're planning to keep the run going after finishing the unlocks, then be a little bit more selective about where you sell them. With a little work, we can actually be setting ourselves up for quite a fortune later in the game. It's nice that our spies are finally getting an extra talent that we can put into the electronics save. That'll be helpful for us. Maybe give us some more room in the crew if we need it. Oh, those Terek Xeno artifacts. We're not going to be able to sell those anywhere. but whatever. The spice wax and the plating, an indie planet will buy those. Unless we get lucky and our nearby indie planet is trade law 2 or lower. First, we'll just double check and see if we've got a good black market nearby. But that black market is at a mining colony. That's not great. It's not worth the risk of running the black market. We know that we have an indie planet next door. We saw it on the way in. So, yeah, let's just go sell there. Now, we should at this point already have completed. I haven't been checking or counting, but we're already very close to completing our salvage contractor unlock, which is just doing 25 salvage operations. You'll get through that very quickly. At this point, we're looking for the antique collector, which is 10 relics, and the special acquisitions, which is 15 rare trade goods. Both of those unlocks have 20 years to do them. So we're sitting at year 211 right now, and we have until the year 230. So honestly, the time it takes us to go get some more money, not a big problem. There's a bad hand. We're going to dock up. We're going to find our scavenger officer, and we're going to retrain him. Now we have the money to do so. That, by the way, being able to afford to retrain him was the thing that made us realize we needed to go sell some of our trade goods in the first place. But now we're pretty much just into the maintenance phase of this. We know which cards we want. We know which cards we don't want. We know when we have to use Master Reclamation to avoid a contact killed and a double crew combat. We see the crew weapon there, so we're going to use a removal card. We got into crew combat, that's fine. We've got Sacrificial Swordsman. It's just wash, rinse, repeat at this point. There's nothing in here that is likely going to end our run because we're appropriately prepared. All of that early wheel spinning that we were doing at the beginning when we were flying around, proving our charter, building up rep, recruiting all of these people, that was all to get us into a position where the salvage game isn't a threat to us. Because a lot of these cards, like the Xeno Crew Combat, are a really big threat to a run that has combat crew they care about. And the Xeno ship is a game ender on a run where you don't have skip off the void yet. But because we're prepared for it, we just keep burning through, and eventually we will get everything that we are looking for. Okay, let's see. The things that we should be keeping an eye on while we're doing this, I already mentioned that the talents we need to keep an eye on having. We want to make sure that if we think we might have to skip off the void, we're not salvaging with our fuel line with our fuel level below our hyperwarp line, or even close to it, because drawing a card will burn 5 to 10 fuel. One easy way to end the run is to see that you have enough fuel for a skip, click draw a Xeno ship card, and have your fuel just tick below that line in that process of drawing, and then not be able to skip away from the Xeno. So always keep your fuel above by a decent buffer. With our combat crew being damaged, we want to keep an eye on their health. Low health on a swordsman, no problem. Low health on one other crew, not really a problem. They can still be life saved. Low health on multiple crew, just take the time and go to the doctor. Same thing with morale. Low morale on a swordsman, no problem. Morale below 50 on anyone else is something you should deal with. Dock up, you might have pay as an option, that'll usually deal with it, or pay, or if need be, go to the spice hall. But if you see those low health and low morale warnings popping up at the top of your screen, just check. See who's low health, see who's low morale, and see if you have to deal with it. Component damage, if it's a minor component, if it's a passenger cabin or something like that, don't worry about it. If it's your hyperwarp drive or your void engine, obviously repair it, even if it takes weeks. If your salvage EVA decks get 2 damage to work, then repair them too. The time it costs to repair them is less than the time you'll save by having them active. One thing you can do is selectively use the repurposed parts talent from your mechanics and get repair cards into the minigame. Generally, you want to be using the Nose for Loot and the credit-bearing salvage cards preferentially. But if your ship is damaged, sure. Prioritize repurposed parts, and maybe you can fix the problem that way. One thing that's also worth keeping a very close eye on is we should have no empty beds. If you ever see up top that there is an empty bed, then someone has died. Probably it's a swordsman. You need to dock up and get a new swordsman because you don't want to draw a combat crew card without a full combat squad to sacrifice. If it's not a swordsman, then that can be a bigger problem. If it's something like a scientist or one of our officers, then you need to deal with that immediately. Go back to your home quadrant, recruit new ones. If it's a pirate or a spy or a mechanic, then unless it's put your ship below its soft cap for one of the pools, you can just fly without for a bit and then re-up in between salvage rumors. If you lose a spy, you'll probably be below your electronic skill cap, but you can usually fix that by just docking up and recruiting an E-Tech. So we're just salvaging until such time as this rumor runs out. Now let's see. It's been a little while since I recorded this, and I can see that recorded this video, and I can see that I'm getting low on fuel here. So if I'm being diligent, oh nope, I didn't. So if that had been a Xeno ship, I would have been screwed because I had let my fuel get too low to skip off the void. I think that if there had been a Xeno ship in that hand, I would have thought to check, and I would have docked up and gotten the fuel. But even a non-Xeno ship can occasionally force you into combat if you don't have skip ready. relic. Yeah, this is going well. And the salvage rumor ends. So now we're going to look in our captain's log, and we're going to see how we've done so far. Under scores and stats, down at the bottom, there's a nice little section in salvage operations. We've easily done our 25 salvage operations, so we've completed salvage contractor. We got, I think it said 7 relics, and I think it said 11 rare trade goods. So we're going to need another 3 relics, another 4 rare trade goods, 1 more rumor. Absolutely going to do it for us. So we're just going to head over to our salvage broker contact, or our retired explorer if she's closer. Salvage broker is right chart, so he'll be a little friendlier with us. They were both 2 jumps away. Either of them, though, will sell us another salvage rumor. And then we can just carry on and put a lid on this thing. One thing that can happen sometimes in these runs is that you'll complete your first salvage rumor, you'll fly over to your contact, and they'll say, "I'm sorry, I have no salvage rumors to sell you." At that point, you're going to need to just twiddle your thumbs. You're going to need to get some time to pass in-game, a few months, worst case, a year or 2, and then eventually a new salvage rumor will pop. It can be tricky to find things to do to burn that time without putting yourself at risk. The safest thing to do, if you have the money, is just upgrade your engine, and then upgrade your engine, and then upgrade your engine. That'll make time fly without even undocking. If you don't have enough money for that, you can go back to Callaghan Fane and run some of his political crusade missions. They're mostly pretty safe, and they'll give you some rep and some money. So, but let's see. Yeah, he's got a rumor for sale, so perfect. We're just going to buy it. We're just going to buy it. We're going to sell him some intel to try and get it cheaper, even though you have 150,000 credits. Okay, fine. Like I said, it's been a few days since I recorded this run. This doesn't make a lot of sense, but there's no real downside to it. We have so much intel. A little bit of extra money can't hurt. I thought I was trying to do this real-time fast, so maybe I should have been just clicking that purchase salvage rumor button, but no, let's sell some more intel. There we go. We got like a 3,000 credit discount. And it is 5 jumps away. That's no good. An orbital disaster is probably the worst one. We've got the money, so let's take a look at another one. Abandoned Medical Station is the best rumor for us because it's got the Cloxian medical bays. It's 1 jump away. That's perfect. Any orbital rumor will do, but if you've got the money, why not buy a couple and get the closest one with the best rumor type? Like I said, Abandoned Medical Station is #1 best because it gets you the rare trade goods faster. Abandoned Military Station and the Hive, I forget what it's actually called, something Xenohive, Abandoned Xenohive, are also quite good for relics. And I think the Xenohive might have Terrox artifacts as a card that you can draw, which will also count for your rare trade goods. Although I can't remember, I might just be confusing it with one of the exploration cards. So here we are. We're in Alta Mesa now. One of our swordsmen deserted. Honestly, good for him. But we'll just pick up an Alta Mesa swordsman who is none the wiser. We're going to just double check that all of our systems are go, that we're going to repair, we're going to heal, we're going to take our talents, and then we're just going to get back into space and we're going to start salvaging in Alta Mesa territory. Our rep is going to be back to 0 here, so we're going to have to be a little bit cautious at the start. You noticed over time that our Thaloon rep went up from our salvaging quite a bit because we were removing every card that could ding our Thaloon rep, and we were occasionally hitting cards that were improving it. So, different rumor, exactly the same strategy. Cloxy Medical Base. That's the one that's worth noting. That counts as a rare trade goods card. So we're going to be prioritizing that. We're only seeing it because we're at an abandoned medical station rumor. Normally, it does not appear at other rumors like the military station or the Xeno Hive or the orbital disaster or orbital construction or whatever. This looks fine. I don't know why I was pausing so much about what to do there. I think that might have been the relics filled. I'm not sure. We'll see. All right, send in the Alta Mesa Swordsman. Sorry, whatever your name is. Surrender. I don't remember her name. I don't know which one. Oh, nobody died. Oh, that's good news. Biomass, yay! More money? Holy crap, we're rich. This run is going to be a good one to carry on as an actual playthrough, probably. If I don't mind being stuck with an Explorer, Quartermaster, Pilot, Captain, which is the big downside of the way, the like super optimized way that I've done this. Like I said at the beginning, the extra Pilot save, the extra Ship Op save, the extra Hyperwarp talent on my Captain, none of those are saving or breaking the run. So if you want to do this with a Zealot Captain, if you want to do it with a Smuggler Captain, if you want to do it with a, I don't know, don't play a Spy. But if you want to do it with a Military Officer Captain, that's absolutely fine. And then having this hundreds of thousands of credits and all of the rare trade goods to sell and all of the weapons and armor and gear that we found, that would put you in a really good starting place to actually make it go at an impossible playthrough. Probably get rid of the Juror, though, as soon as you can. Yeah, the Salvage Rush is actually, we're doing it for the unlocks, but it's a pretty viable strategy. It may not be able to compete with the rare trade goods, like super broken rare trade goods trading strategy for early money, but this is absolutely competitive with things like the early exploring rush strategy. Plus the early exploring rush doesn't get you all those like cool level 7 and 10 salvage weapons that you can't buy anywhere. In the end, when you're coming to do your salvaging with the crew complement that we have here, with the requisite number of Nose for Loot talents, with the Master Reclamation talents, with the life saves, ideally with a salvage deck, although it's not essential, then you'll be fine. mainly it. Let's check. In salvage operations, we have recovered 15 salvaged relics and recovered 15 stashes of rare trade goods. Let's check our unlocks. There we are. Antique Collector, unlocked. Salvage Contractor, unlocked. Specialty Acquisitions, unlocked. Thank you for watching. We are done. That was quite a ride. Considering that those are 3 of the most difficult unlocks to get that people have trouble achieving, we did them all in a single run in 1 hour of gameplay, under 5 years of game time, under 4 years of game time. I'm taking that as a complete win. Thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful. This guide also exists in a PDF format. I'm going to put it in a link in the description below. Feel free to check that out and keep it open while you're running through on your own. And leave a comment. Let me know if this guide worked for you. Let me know if there's something you wish I'd done different, something different you'd like to see in either the video or the PDF. I'm going to keep doing these. Up next is Big Network. Thanks a lot, guys.